giant orange records.
Unlistenable jazz! Oh my! This is terrible! Well, you may be asking yourself, why in the world am I wearing a fedora? Well, I don't know. I guess it's better than wearing a top hat to talk about jazz. And Sonny, I certainly can't be wearing a cowboy hat to talk about that jazz bebop music. Today I want to talk about these unlistenable jazz albums that really push the envelope. They're avant-garde or avant jazz, if you will. They made this abrasive music years before any rock band attempted to do such damage to our eardrums and our minds. This is actually a really nice passage here. And for these albums I'm talking about today, we'll have to consider the vinyl factor, because I don't think I would stream any of this music for more than a minute or so. But over this past weekend, my favorite local record store, Sounds Good, had some incredible jazz pressings that are really hard to listen to, but I enjoy the challenge and I took on that challenge, and I think I'm a better person for it. And you can be too. You just have to open your ears and open your mind, man. Because these jazz cats, that's where it's at. And you know, because it's on vinyl, it would take way more effort to lift the needle and stop listening to it and throw the record across the room like a frisbee. Nobody would want that, right? But the more I listen to this, the more listenable it becomes and the more music I hear. Start off with his 1961 release called Free Jazz by Ornette Coleman. It's very cacophonous. It's one take. It was about 38 minutes. So side one fades out in the middle of the take, and then it fades back for side two of the LP. Now, looking up this pressing on Discogs took quite a lot of work. On earlier pressings, there's a Jackson Pollock painting on the front, and that's fun. But this is a 1970s reissue, and things get a little more convoluted here. This was on Atlantic Records, so thank you, Atlantic, for taking chances on these artists that really push the envelope here. And next I want to take you to another 1961 release that is a lot more listenable. Just to show you what John Coltrane was doing in 1961, this one is called Coltrane Jazz. It is on Atlantic Records as well. And this is a 1961 release, as I said, but this is a 1975 reissue on Atlantic Records with the Warner logo. And an interesting fact is that Village Blues, which is on side one of this album, was recorded on the same day that Coltrane and his band recorded My Favorite Things. That's the only song from that session that wound up on this album, and the rest of the songs on here are from a different session. This is very accessible, very listenable, and what you might even call nice modern jazz. I really enjoy it. There's also a song on here called Like Sonny, a Coltrane original. I'm guessing that might be a reference to Sonny Rollins, another great jazz saxophone player. And to purchase all these records, I had to borrow some banknotes from the bank of my son. He made this nice bill for me so that I could take it to the record store and afford more records, because if you thought psychedelic and garage records were expensive, man, these jazz albums are insane. But then, you know, this is a cute little 1961 album compared to the Mac Daddy coming up here. John Coltrane's Ascension from 1966. That's the release date. This is a 1974 reissue on Impulse with the green and blue center label. Boy, this makes punk rock seem like bubblegum music, especially the first time you hear it. I mean, honestly, this is brutalizing, and it's on purpose. Coltrane got a bunch of people together, and I think they played in B-flat minor, and they just kind of jammed on that for a while. Ascension is one song that's two parts. I think this is the first take. Coltrane went back and forth between whether he liked take one or take two better, and there's two variables out there. This is take one. And let me just say, this is a full-on assault on the senses. I mean, to listen through this is, I feel like I came out the other side as a different person. On the plus side, this free jazz stuff is still way more listenable than Lou Reed's Metal Machine music, which might have been kind of a joke. And you can tell that these jazz musicians are taking themselves seriously. Coltrane is in a very serious contemplative pose here, holding his instrument in perhaps a suggestive way. I don't know. You can tell these jazz musicians take their self-expression very seriously, and that's a beautiful and discordant thing all at once. They play this cacophony with a fiery passion, and another plus is it still sounds better than a toddler banging on the piano. It's certainly more musical than that, but yeah, these two albums seriously warped my mind over the weekend, and I'm going to be listening to these for a long time to come. It's not something you'll probably listen to every day, but it's definitely a palate cleanser, and I think the closest thing rock and roll came to this was maybe Trout Mask Replica or maybe The Residents. But yeah, if you want to take yourself for a wild ride, start listening to some free jazz, and I would recommend doing it on vinyl, playing it at a volume of your discretion. Too loud can be too much, too quiet, you can't really hear it. And if you want to make yourself feel a little bit cooler while listening to these albums, you could always put on your fedora as you tune in, turn on your turntable, man. Just give it a spin. This is my first take on these albums, which I'd never really heard before this weekend. I'd heard briefly about Ornette Coleman's album, The Shape of Jazz to Come, which actually predates this one. That is from 1959, and this one, again, is from 1961. Quite a pivotal year for jazz music, and again, you see how far ahead of everyone else these jazz cats really were. And again, I would say the Ornette Coleman free jazz is a lot more listenable than Coltrane's Ascension, so if you're going to start somewhere, you may want to start with free jazz.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.